People rarely tell you who they are directly. They mask their true intentions. They smile warmly when they are secretly envious. They act dominant and confident when they are internally terrified. And they use polite, agreeable words to hide deeply aggressive motives. But here's the crazy part. Most of us just walk blindly through life, completely taking these appearances at face value. We stubbornly trust the polite words. We believe the charming smiles. We live entirely on the surface. And then when someone inevitably turns on us, when a friend sabotages us or a coworker throws us under the bus, we react with pure emotional shock. We sit there thinking, where did that come from? But the truth is, the signs were always there. We just didn't know how to read them. We spend almost our entire lives operating on the surface level. But underneath that friendly facade lies an intense, hidden reality. Secret envy, aggressive motives, deeply rooted insecurities. If you don't know how to read this hidden reality, you're always going to be a step behind. You will constantly be a victim of other people's emotional turbulence. In this explainer, we are tearing down those illusions using insights from Robert Greene's masterpiece, The Laws of Human Nature. This isn't just an overview, it's a strategic toolkit. It's designed to completely transform you from a reactive participant into an untouchable, strategic observer. Once you grasp this, it will fundamentally change how you see everyone around you. Let's start with law number 1, master your emotional self, and the law of irrationality. We love to imagine we are entirely rational, right? That we are fully in control of our actions. Well, we aren't. As this quote beautifully illustrates, our behavior is constantly hijacked by ancient primal forces operating completely below the surface. Think about that sudden surge of anger or anxiety you feel during a tense conversation. It's rarely about the present moment. Most of the time, it's a blind reaction to a deeply buried childhood trigger. Until you actually master your own emotional self, you're just reacting wildly to whatever the world throws at you. Moving on to law number 2, beware the fragile ego and the reality of narcissism. Here is an uncomfortable psychological truth. Every single one of us is driven by a desperate hunger for validation. Notice how this spectrum of self-absorption breaks down. On one end, you have the deep narcissist. Because they have no cohesive sense of self, they literally use other people as instruments to extract attention. Then you have the functional narcissist. This is where most of us sit. We have just enough of a baseline of self-love to keep us from drowning in our own insecurity. But the ultimate goal is to reach the level of the empath. That's where you are so profoundly secure in yourself that you can turn your attention completely outward and actually read others. Law number 3, see through people's masks and the law of role-playing. Everyone, and I mean everyone you meet, is wearing a mask. The humble coworker, the diligent boss, the fiercely loyal friend. But here is the crucial point. The mask always cracks. You have to train yourself to ignore the theatrical persona, ignore the excessive smiles, the theatrical righteousness, and the perfectly agreeable words. Instead, you need to be watching for the leakage, the hostile microexpressions, the sudden bodily tension, those brief flashes of impatience in their eyes when someone else is speaking. People simply cannot suppress these leaks when they are stressed. If you learn this nonverbal language, you will never be blindsided again. Law number 4, the toxicity of envy and the danger of false friends. This is easily one of the darkest dynamics of human behavior. The people most likely to sabotage you are often enviers masquerading as your closest friends. Look at how they disguise themselves. The leveler will cover their deep insecurity with righteous indignation, mocking absolutely anyone who achieves excellence. Then there are those who use poisonous praise and sudden intense intimacy. They draw uncomfortably close to you, shower you with flattery, and map out your exact weak points. And once they know exactly what will hurt the most, they strike. They literally befriend you simply to possess the power to wound you. Law number 5, confront your dark side and the law of repression. Inside every single person is a repressed shadow personality that was formed in infancy. It secretly drives our most contradictory and destructive behavior. As Anton Chekhov puts it, true awareness requires us to confront this dark side head-on. If you walk around pretending you are purely innocent and highly moral, you are simply lying to yourself. Acknowledging your own shadow is the absolute prerequisite to recognizing it in anyone else. Law number 6, the cost of emotional blindness and why we make terrible decisions. When you ignore all these hidden realities, it leads to emotional blindness. We get trapped in delusions of superiority. When you let your ego run the show and ignore the hidden motives of those around you, you make terrible, self-destructive decisions. You have to internalize this rule right now. Never be seduced by someone's theatrical righteousness or dramatic convictions. Drama is a distraction. Extreme stridency and absolute certainty are almost always a desperate cover for profound insecurity. When someone is trying way too hard to convince you of their morality or their strength, your internal warning alarm should be ringing. Finally, law number 7, the power of strategic awareness and its application in daily life. Let's get one thing straight. This knowledge is not a tool for manipulation. It is the ultimate form of defensive awareness. It's about gaining real emotional intelligence. Here's how you do it. First, detect the underlying motives behind people's actions. Second, detach yourself emotionally from their drama. You have to stop taking their toxic behavior personally. Third, transmute your own self-absorption into calculated empathy. Read their needs without getting entangled. And fourth, take your own natural aggression and channel it entirely into an unstoppable, productive purpose. You also need practical defensive tactics to completely immunize yourself against social toxicity. If you sense envy from someone, deflect it by deliberately downplaying your own successes. Don't brag. Anchor your self-worth internally so you aren't desperately reliant on validation from a crowd. Replace the toxic, exhausting habit of comparison with a genuine admiration for greatness. And when you are in a group setting, always maintain a layer of mental distance so you don't get swept downward by the hive mind. When you actually start applying these laws, something incredible happens. You realize that we humans are far more mysterious, complex, and interesting than you ever imagined. Understanding these deeply ingrained psychological patterns actually frees you. You stop taking people's ugly behavior personally because you finally realize it's driven by ancient unconscious forces that have absolutely nothing to do with you. I want to leave you with a powerful truth from the philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer. When you encounter human meanness or stupidity out in the world, don't let it wound you. Instead, observe it as a fascinating behavioral specimen. You are the scientist. They are merely the subject. If you want to deepen your strategic understanding of human behavior, I highly recommend reading the original book, which you can find linked in the description below. So, the next time someone acts entirely out of character, ask yourself, what hidden law is secretly driving them right now?